Welcome to the Severalnines product video, and today we will demonstrate to you the command line interface of ClusterControl. So the command line interface is offering you an alternative to the web-based ClusterControl user interface on the command line. You can perform almost any deployment, management or scaling task from the command line, and also if you make any change like adding a node, this change will also be visible in the web UI and the other way around. With new installations from ClusterControl 1.4.1 onwards, the command line interface will be installed by default. For existing installations, please check out github.com/severalnines/s9tools to see how to install it on your own existing cluster. Before we can actually use this command line client, we need to create a user in ClusterControl to authenticate against ClusterControl backend. We can do this by simply executing this one-liner on the command line. This creates basically a folder inside your home folder called .s9s. Inside this folder there will be a key pair to authenticate and a configuration file that you can adjust to your own liking. Also, security-wise, we are using TLS between the command line client and the ClusterControl backend. This ensures that all your commands, jobs and stats will be transported securely. Now, the benefits of using the command line are basically that you can integrate everything with ClusterControl. So you can do DevOps, integration with deployment automation tools like Ansible, Chef and Puppet, or integration with chatbots. And because the command line client also has the ability to output in various formats, including JSON, you can basically also integrate it into your application stack. So next up, we want to do a small demonstration of the ClusterControl command line interface. First of all, we can show you that it has context-based help. So we have s9s help that gives you like the overview of all the commands that you can execute, or you can do s9s command and then help, and that will give you context-related information on the command that you want to execute. So for instance, for cluster, you get cluster-related information. For jobs, you get job-related information. The same help is also available as man pages. Please refer to the man pages if you want to use them. So now the next command that we want to show is the cluster listing. So we can do s9s cluster help to see what the context is. We can do a listing here, so list. So doing the list will show you nothing because we don't have any clusters yet. This is an empty cluster control instance containing 0 clusters. So what we can do is now deploy a new cluster. So what we'll do is we'll do the cluster create and then provide all the necessary options like the vendor, the version, what nodes we want to add, under which user we are going to deploy this, what is the MySQL root password that we want to set for this cluster. Once we are deploying, you can see that a new job has been created. Now we could follow this job, but first of all we can list all the jobs inside the cluster. So what we can do is s9s job, that's like the command for jobs, list. Giving the list will list all the jobs that are currently defined. You can see that it's only one, it's the first job that we have, and that's our create cluster job. Now if you want to get the details of this job, you can do job log. And by getting these log lines, you get the individual log lines for each and every job. Now you can see the contents of this job is very long and it could go on for a very long time. So we'll fast forward this little section until we have deployed our new cluster. Now as you can see, our cluster almost has been deployed. It's almost ready. If we go to the web interface, you can already see it. We have 2 nodes in our cluster, so that's a very good thing. Furthermore, if we go back to the command line interface, we can see that a new job has been spawned. That is like the job that is going to check whether all the nodes are fine and up and running. So going back to the web interface, you can see that the cluster has been defined now. The job has been executed by the DBA user. So if you have a separate user for the command line interface, this allows you to track where the cluster was defined. Now, furthermore, If we go back to the command line, we want to add another node, an additional node to our cluster. We have a 2-node cluster here, which is for Galera not a very good idea, so we want to have 3 nodes. We can simply add a new node by cluster -- add node. Once we have provided the host name that we want to add, we can deploy this node, and this takes a couple of minutes for it to finish. And you can track the job again by using the job -- list command. So now the job has deployed finally, and you can see that our cluster is up and running, and we can see that in the web interface. But actually we also want to see this on the command line. So if you want to do that, you can use the cluster -- stat, the status of the cluster, and then see the current status of your cluster. You can see that all nodes are up and running and everything is fine. So the last thing we want to show in this demonstration video is how to create a user and a database in MySQL. This is necessary if you're going to automate all sorts of things through Puppet, Chef, or maybe a chatbot that you want to automate and want to create these users and databases on the fly. You can do this from the command line using cluster -- create account to create a user, then provide the credentials like the username, password, and the host that we're going to connect from, plus the grants on the table and databases of your liking. Furthermore, if we want to create a database, we can do that in a similar fashion with a -- create database. That's going to be the end of this video. Thank you very much for watching. I hope everything was clear. If you have any comments or questions, just leave them below or get in touch with us via Severalnines.com on the chat.